Chekhov,
Here.
Member Evans, Member Heather, Member Honig, Member Krajewski, Member Ozog, Member Schwarzy, Member Tornator, Member Yu, Member Zay,
Here.
All right, if there's a quorum physically present, he's online. We'll entertain a motion to permit those members not physically present due to personal illness or disability, employment purposes, or the business of the board, family or other emergency or unexpected childcare obligations to participate by video or teleconference. Do I have a motion? Mr. Schwartz, second. Jim, all those in favor? Opposed? You're welcome, Mr. Zay.
Thank you.
All right. Don't have any chairman remarks, so we'll move right to budget presentations with our state's attorney, Bob Berlin. Coming in.
Good morning, everybody. All right. So before I get into the numbers, our first slide here is just our organizational structure, which includes our mission, which is to seek justice for the people of DuPage County with integrity, courage, and professionalism. And everything that the professionals in our office do is guided by two concerns, and that's protecting the public and defending the rights of victims. So for our request for 2026, we're asking for a total of $17,780,687. And that is an increase up from $16,151,330. This assumes filling 10 open state's attorney, assistant state's attorney positions and 5 support staff positions. Currently, we have offers out that have been accepted by 10 bar takers who are waiting for their results. Assuming they all pass, we're actually going to finally, on the assistant state's attorney side, be full. And it is our hope that we will be able to hire our additional 5 support staff, which includes a victim witness professional. The budget increase, all of that has actually already been approved by this board because it's all salary. 92% of our budget is personnel. Regarding the increase from last year, 96% of that is salaries. The good news is, once again, this year we have stayed under budget and we're projected to be under budget. We continue to adequately compensate our attorneys. The rate of attrition has gone significantly down. So we have experienced attorneys both in civil and criminal, and they're getting the job done. In terms of next year, some of the increases that we're seeing, our Westlaw subscription is increasing by $22,000. There's an increase of $8,500 for new radios for our investigators. Also, an increase of $19,000 for TechShare and ARDC dues and DCA membership dues. Once again, we will be able to pay for all of our assistants for their bar fees, as well as to be a member of the DuPage County Bar Association. In terms of our caseload, the good news is this: our felonies were down last year by 4.7%. In 2024, we filed 2,815 felonies compared to 2,954 in 2023. So far, the first 6 months of 2025, we filed 1,376. And if that number holds true for the rest of the year, we'll be down another 2% from 2024. Domestic violence cases were down 5.7% from 23 to 2024. And so far, first 6 months of 2025, we're on track for a 7% decrease. Armed robberies, first 6 months of 2025, down 39% from last year. Aggravated vehicular hijacking or carjacking, down 43% in the first 6 months of 2025. Burglaries are down 12.5%. Unlawful use of weapon by felon are down 18% first 6 months down 18% from 2023. Robberies and aggravated robberies are down 56% so far the first 6 months of 2025. And aggravated fleeing and eluding and fleeing cases, we've seen a huge increase the past few years. The good news is last year the number was down 6%, and this year we're on track for a 20% decrease. And then murder cases so far, only 3 have been charged this year, and that's a 33% decrease. Total pending felony cases right now, 2,473. That's down 7% from last year. The reason those numbers for violent crime are down is because we are enforcing the law and the message is being heard. There's no question that that has had a huge impact. We're also benefiting from what's happening in Cook County with the new state's attorney, Eileen O'Neill Burke, who's also enforcing the law. And I know that in 2023, 62% of our felonies were committed by people that don't live in the county, many of them coming from Cook County. So what we're seeing is the law being enforced in Chicago has had a big impact on what we're doing out here. But my attorneys are doing an outstanding job. They're getting the results, and we're seeing the difference, and the public is a lot safer for it. I want to talk a little bit about the restorative justice courts. Again, huge numbers. Our focus courtroom, which is for the first offender drug cases, we have 950 pending cases right now. That's up from last year. There's 428 pre-disposition and 522 post-disposition. Our other problem-solving courts, our drug court, we have 497 graduates so far since 2002, and there is a graduation set for, I believe it's the first or second week of September. Hopefully we're going to get over 500. Our mental health court, or MyCap, 868 graduations since 2004 and 42 so far this year in 2025. And our Veterans Court, 52 graduations since 2018. And there's 21 cases currently pending in Veterans Court, 88 active cases in MyCap, and 64 in drug court. Our diversion court, which is something that I started, it's been up and running 13 years now. 575 cases have been accepted as of June 6th of this year. 428 have successfully completed the program, and we currently have 56 active cases in the program. These are first-time felons, nonviolent cases, and if they complete the program, their case is dismissed and they can get it expunged. So we're doing incredible work on the restorative justice front, but we're tough on violent crime, and the combination has resulted in a decrease in all violent crimes, making our communities a lot safer. We did see an increase in juvenile delinquency cases, 209 cases filed so far this year. And that would equate to an increase of 22% over last year. We're seeing that all over the region. I know Cook County is seeing a big increase in juvenile crime. Fortunately, most of those cases are nonviolent. We have a small number of juvenile offenders in our youth home. I know the number is under 10. I'm not sure the exact number today. I do want to mention firearm restraining orders. In 2024, we filed 41, which was up from 22 in 2023. And then in the first 6 months of this year, 15 firearm restraining orders. So far, since the firearm restraining order law went into effect in 2019, statewide, there's been 910 firearm restraining orders, and we've done 173 of those here in DuPage County. That's 19%, even though DuPage is 7.3% of the state's population. So we continue to file firearm restraining orders and get them granted. The police are trained in the law, and there's no question that we are saving lives as a result of it. Child support for federal fiscal year 2025, we collected and dispersed more than $37.8 million, which is an outstanding number. Once again, our child support division is the best in the state. They continue to do an outstanding job. And then I have to mention our civil division. We talk to them on a daily basis. But the mental health cases, again, huge increase. So 700 mental health cases so far through June 30th of 2025, just this year, which puts us on pace for 1,400 cases this year. That would be a 35% increase from 2024. And it's actually almost double the number of cases that we filed in 2022, which was 715. So we see a huge increase in mental health cases, and all the more reason for the Crisis Recovery Center, which will be short. Again, it's important to note that while the felony numbers are down, the cases are a lot more complicated. They require a lot more time and manpower to prepare and to prosecute. But we're answering the challenge with the use of TechShare. We're able to get hours and hours of digital media evidence, all our phone dumps, and in video interviews and body camera evidence, and we're able to get that to the defense attorneys as quick as possible. The one thing I do want to mention, which we don't know at this point, we're working on some type of a global countywide solution to the huge increase in phone evidence. When we do a phone dump, there's a tremendous amount of bandwidth that gets taken up, and there's some duplication that we're seeing between our office and the police. And we're working on some type of a resolution. We're not sure what that's going to look like, but that is a cost that will be shared by everyone. So, are there any questions before I move over to the Children's Center?
Thank you. So I did notice that, I think you were mentioning this, that other contractual services, there is an increase. Obviously from 2022, it was 40,000, and then it moved up to 315,846, and now your budget request is 367,490. And I was taking a look at OpenGov just to take a look further to see where the increase is really happening, and it happens to be subscription IT arrangements, where it was at 6,500 before, and then it moved into 205,665 in 2024. So there was this massive increase. And then for 2025, it was 238. And then now in your 2026 budget, you're looking for 261,590. So for these subscription IT arrangements, can you just tell me a little bit more about that and what happened in 2024 and why that needs to continue to increase?
So Some of the accounts I know were moved. But in terms of what we're seeing in an increase, as I mentioned, Thompson Reuters, which is our Westlaw, is up. Also, Axon, which is where we're storing a lot of our, actually all of our digital evidence, is now stored in Axon instead of in TechShare. It's actually cheaper. Those are the big increases. There's other software subscriptions I know that are costing another $23,000. But it's the big increase is some of those accounts were moved.
Can I ask a follow-up question with regard to
Sure.
Axon? So you had mentioned that Axon, obviously, it's a subscription, there's a lot of data. But I also know that the sheriff's department, they use the Axon cameras and they also have the subscription. So I'm just wondering is it separate, that you guys have the separate memory, the separate subscription? Is it duplicated? Sounds like it's duplicated, but I just wasn't sure.
Actually, there is some duplication, but the evidence is stored. It's kind of stored in the Axon cloud and retrieve it. So I don't think it's stored in two separate places. And with the phone dumps, we are seeing a lot of duplication, and that's something that we're working on reducing. Because, yeah, everyone's paying for it. The police are paying for it. We're paying for it. So that's something we're working on.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the report. Those crime numbers are absolutely wonderful. Thank you for sharing those. And congrats, because it's a direct reflection on the hard work you and your office have been doing. You were sharing them faster than I could write them down. Is there a way that you could share those with us so we have them?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I can email the numbers out to all of you.
Thank you.
It really is great news.
Lassie, can you hear me?
Oh, I can now. Yeah, my audio was out. Yeah, thank
Move
you. I just wanted to reiterate what Member Swarzy just said and
question.
those. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
All right, I've got a question while we bring her back on. Are there any more plans to revise or amend the Safety Act you're going to be involved in?
It's something that we've been working on. I can't speak for what's going to happen in the General Assembly, but as you all know, from the very beginning, I've been pushing for more judicial discretion. Firmly believe judges are in the best position to make a decision on detention or release. We still have some categories of crime judges don't have.
And we've still got a situation where a sentencing judge cannot revoke some type of lease, and you have to go to a second judge for the second crime.
Yeah, so we've had a number of cases where someone's on release, they commit a new offense. And on the new offense, Judge Deaton, the first appearance court, cannot detain the defendant, so he has to set conditions. But then we file a petition to revoke release on the pending case, and the judge is able to revoke the release. It's kind of an oddity. Hopefully, we will get fixed.
Do you know what whether or not the number of people returning to court when they're obligated to do so is going up or gone down?
So for the first year of the Safety Act, for felony cases, the failure to appear rate was up 32%. However, if we give judges more discretion, there's no question in my mind that number is going to go down significantly.
Is that up from prior years, prior to the Safety Act?
I don't have the percentage from prior years, but I'm pretty confident in saying it.
Ms. Blassie, are you back online? Can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Can't hear you.
I'm not
Sorry,
on
for some
mute.
reason you're blacked out.
Okay.
Desart, you have a question?
I do, thank you, Chair. I'm glad that most of the data is down. That's fantastic news for DuPage County. And I'm only asking you this because you have a finger on the pulse. I was concerned that juvenile delinquency is up, but I'm wondering if, with your finger on the pulse up, you wonder why. This past weekend, it was in Will County, not DuPage, but 5 kids were pulled over for stealing a car. The driver was 15, the other kids were 14 and 15 years old. And in fact, to stop the car, they hit Will County Sheriff's Office deputy's car. They were not injured, but I'm hearing more and more about these young kids. I don't know what you were doing at 14 or 15, but it just seems like I can see that the juvenile delinquency is up. What's going on? Do you know?
I'm sure that the causes, there's many different causes for it. But one of the reasons is juvenile court, there's limitations on what we can do. It's restorative in nature. In my opinion, juvenile court is not really well equipped for the real violent crime. You can only hold someone until they're 21. And there may be an impression amongst some of the gangs that the consequences are not great for juveniles. So we're seeing more of them committing these offenses. In this county overall, though, again, even though those numbers are up, we're not seeing a huge increase in the violence. Not seeing an increase in armed robberies, carjackings, or shootings. So that's good. There are more property crime and those kinds of offenses. But it's something that we're monitoring. And I'll say this about our juvenile court, it's the best in the state. We're very resource heavy. Our juvenile probation department is phenomenal. Remember, when we file a juvenile case, it's not just the minor that appears in court. The parents are parties to the case. They have to appear in court. And most often, there's something going on in the home or something not going on. That's a reason for the minor committing the crime. And our probation department is able to address those needs and try and get to the root cause. We have tremendous success. It's still, and it's been this way for years, it's only about 6% of the juvenile offenders that we see in juvenile court that we're going to see as adults. So the other 94%, we're really able to address that criminal activity and get them on the right path.
Thank you. Thank you. Just really quick comment, and thank you so much for your presentation. I'm really happy to see the numbers go down in crime. I'm thinking even with the juvenile department and, with parents and kids, the crisis recovery center will probably be will have a pretty big impact on families as a whole. So I'm hoping that the juvenile crimes would also go down. I'm sure they are, but I'm guessing that the crisis recovery center would be key.
No question. The mental health problem it's everywhere. It's adults, it's juveniles. The more that we address those needs, we're going to see a reduction.
Member Delassie just sent in her comment as we're working through the technical difficulties. She wanted to applaud you and your team for great efforts to get the crime numbers reduced. As well, she echoes Member Schwarzy's commentary of the numbers when you get a chance.
Just wanted to make another quick comment. I forgot to mention this earlier. Thank you so much that you've been filing those firearm restraining orders, 15 this year, and the fact that you've got 19%, across the state. That's really, really amazing, and I really appreciate it because it is truly preventing gun violence in our county. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I should add, we're on Karina's law. We've had 3 cases now, and 2 of them involved residences outside of DuPage County. In both those cases, we had communication with all of the stakeholders in the other counties. All three of those went very well. So again, it's because of the result of preparation. Go on to the Children's Center with this. Okay. Just gonna go back to the budget here. Our Children's Center, last year, we accepted 343 cases, which was an increase at 8.2% from 2023. 283 sexual abuse cases and 47 physical abuse cases. We're asking for a total of $937,066, which is an increase of 7%, or $62,174 over our 2025 budget. $780,000 and $717 is for personnel. So this would be all positions being funded, and it also takes into account anticipated grant funding, which is just under $500,000. Our team at the Children's Center, the investigators, our case managers, they're outstanding and they're doing a great job. We've got some incredible investigators over there, and our attorneys in our sex crimes division, they screen these cases 24/7, 365. They're routinely getting called on Friday and Saturday at 2 or 3 in the morning. But we answer the challenge, we answer the bell. They continue to be some of our most serious and some of our most disturbing cases. And when we talk about child pornography, sexual abuse, physical abuse of children, it knows no boundaries. It's in every single community in this county. But we have great relationships with all of our police departments. We work these cases with them. We have agreements with all of our police departments. And the results speak for themselves, because we're just doing tremendous work in that regard. So, are there any questions on the Children's Center?
And just one quick one. You've got a department request over the current budget, 2025 to 2026. Is there a head count that's going to be changed on that one, or what's causing the increase?
So actually, PRMS, the report management system, police records management system, is now being paid out of a different account. That's part of it. And actually, we don't have any additional headcount. I know we one opening with an offer right now. But just
So
the
this
salary
is regarding the salary.
increases were just approved by.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to commend you, Mr. Berlin. You do a tremendous job, and you run your the state's attorney's office with ease. And kind of want to echo what Member Schwarzy said, is that those numbers, I couldn't write them down, they were going so fast, but they were getting those numbers down is so crucial. And I think it's not just about stopping violent offenders. It's the fact that you are so committed in your office to rehabilitating, and when people go back out in the community and back out in our county, that they're going to be better than they were before. And I think that because you're so committed to the two-pronged approach, that's why we see the success here in DuPage. So I just want to say thank you to your whole team.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I think the Children's Center does amazing work, hands down. I just wanted to say that up front, but I just want to make sure that I understand this year so far. I think I heard you say there were 343 cases, and the budget this year is $770,000. So that's about $2,200 per family. Would that be accurate?
I'm going to trust you.
I'm sorry, you what?
I'll trust you on the math.
Okay, so it's about $2,000 per family. And what is the average? Is it for a week's help, a month's help, a year? How long do we stay with the families?
It depends on how long the case goes on for. Sometimes, for years.
And how does that figure, the $2,200 figure, compare with other counties who have the same program? Do we know?
I'm not sure. Figuring the math that way, I'm not sure how it compares.
Okay,
I do know that the work that our people are doing there is really incredible. They do an
Right.
outstanding job, and they have a great. Our children's center has a great reputation.
thank you.
Great, thank you for coming in
So
today.
I
Appreciate it.
I want to thank the board again for your support over the years. This county board has always supported the state's attorney's office, and I appreciate it. I know my staff appreciates it, and I assure you that the work you see now is just going to continue. So, thank you.
All right, well, thank you. We'll move on to the sheriff's department. Under Sheriff Eddie Moore is presenting. Thank you for being here today.
Thanks. Sheriff Mendrick apologizes for his absence today. His wife had some recent surgery, which required a follow-up today due to some issues. This is probably going to be the most streamlined budget we've ever done. We knew a lot of different slides, minutiae to go through, but we're going to cut to the chase today. Next slide, please. This is just a basic breakdown of what our organizational chart looks like at the top. The sheriff and then myself and what my responsibilities are. Next slide. This is the actual bureau that I oversee 100% of the time. These are the individuals that report directly to me in their divisions. Next slide. Same for corrections, which is led by Chief Mark Garcia. Next slide. And then the law enforcement bureau, which is led by Chief Pop. We just want to give you a quick analogy of just how big our office is. We're currently sitting at 471 employees right now. All right, let's get to the numbers. Next slide. For our FY26, our initial request, including the capital expenses, is $99,786,163. That would include the salaries and the estimated overtime plus benefits. You received the expenses from last 4 years or so from finance. This should be in your packet. We didn't add it to the slides here because we have over a dozen accounting units. If you're looking at the variance report for 2026, you'll see that our commodities and contractual services are substantially down. However, our personnel are substantially up. That is due to the collective bargaining agreements that we've agreed on. That's 2 of the 4 we currently have.
And one more slide, please. So as we do every year, we work with finance. We try to bring our numbers up as much as we possibly can. Some of our main budget standpoint areas we have to budget for our medicines, pharmaceuticals within the corrections facility. We put the full amount in there at $900,000. We generally run that at half. The rest goes into contingency. Same for our offsite medical services, which is a variable number every year. We've had months where we've spent $60,000, $70,000 a month in offsite medical, and months where it's been substantially less than that. So again, we work with finance, we move that down as well. We did have a meeting with finance, with Jason Blumenthal, and talked about some of the areas we could look to try to cut. And I know that you've all been looking at OpenGov. OpenGov is the bane of my existence. It's a wonderful system. The first year we used OpenGov, we went through and we listed every single line and every single expense we had. So we're here. I remember how detailed that was. We had all of our dogs' names and the types of food that they want. Fortunately, the following year, that system erased all of that. And because it did all of that, we went to aggregate numbers. So the numbers that you're seeing in all of these various county units. One undersheriff said we have more than a dozen county units. do have more than a dozen accounting units. Within those, some can have 10 different accounting lines, others can have 4. It all just depends on what size, what division we're talking about. Our correctional center is obviously the highest and the highest budgetary impact for us, and that has the most number of accounting lines. So when you look through that, with various accounting unit lines, the aggregate number is one thing, but for us to break it down, and we have the packet back here, for us to break that down, we did was 51 pages on 11 by 17 paper. One side of it was 51 pages of lines, data entry. It's on, as the undersheriff referred to, ants on a tennis court size font to get it on that size paper. That's how expansive our budget request actually is. So what you're seeing is aggregate. So we went through, other deputy chiefs and the chiefs will tell you that I can be proven on the budget reviews. We went through another time prior to coming over and meeting with Jeff and Jennifer and Jason. We cut another $90,000, which I know sounds rather insignificant in the grand scheme of things. But $90,000. We talks about the personnel system. We had put $750,000 in personnel. Initially, we had put $250,000 as a benchmark figure. Then we listened to more meetings, listened to HR here. Close, bumped it to 750,000. That's included in there. I believe we're going to remove that because we think that probably isn't going to work either. We need to see what you guys are going to do. But to give the board an idea of why we're looking at the personnel system, our current personnel system for our 470 some employees was DOS based. Most people don't even know how to use a DOS based system. One person that is actually able to function it, he could retire tomorrow if he leaves. Fix that system. So getting our people, that's the challenge for us. We also have to remove, we put in $1.5 million for jail radios. Surprise to us, ETSB called us and told us the radios we put in jail about 4 years ago. Life. So ETSB, those radios, and it's been wonderful to work with the ETSB with those radios and trying to figure out what we can do. That those radios work. So we have to replace the radios. So those are some of the big numbers that we took out approximately. Next slide, please. That's bringing that down to just shy of 96 million. All candor at the beginning was about 105 million, so we brought it down out of the 9-digit range. So working through this, we understand this is obviously a very large budget. We understand it's a very large request. Our commodities, our contractuals are down. The variance report form that you guys all received in your packet, it's actually in negatives for both commodities and contractuals. So years past, we've been 5, 10, 15, 20, 30% positive on those. This year we're not significantly down. And the reason that our personnel lines are so high is because of the so we have to pay our staff. We are doing our best to fully and completely staff our office by the nominal position. I'm sure that's where we're at with people who are actually in the pipeline to be hired. Our partners outside, both medical and psychological, just doing an incredible amount of work on our behalf to get those positions for us. Background investigators, amazing. So we're in a really great place as far as that's concerned. But lion's share of our budget is kind of piggybacking on what Terry Berlin said. Part of the reason the county is so safe and crime is so down is because our officers, our deputy sheriffs, in conjunction with municipalities, in conjunction with the mayor, doing these investigations, with solid investigations, solid cases. People do not want to come to DuPage County. It's very, very common. Our eastern border of DuPage County, so we're arrested to ask which county they're in. And the answer generally is the wrong one. They don't want to be in DuPage County. So we have tremendous partnership with state's attorney Berlin. Officers are just doing amazing. Actually, deputies are phenomenal. There, cost money, but services programs, 70+ classes per month. We have all these different facilities that are helping rehabilitating individuals. So all these things. So that being said, I will open it up to any questions.
Thank you both for the presentation. I appreciate it. I just want to understand the numbers. Guys, if we could go back to the sheet that says final numbers real quick. I wanted to ask, so it says the initial request in this year's budget, was it the initial request in this year's budget process? Or was that 99, was that 2025's budget? Or what is the term initial request mean?
So initially, we put our budget together.
This year for 2026.
So before that, 3.79 million, $3,790,000 reduction. Back aside, which is working finance, so that's really almost.
We know I saw that from the initial request. I got that.
So so the initial request was 99 million. What we took all of this.
Yeah.
But prior to
Okay.
that, we were actually higher than that.
I'm just thinking that, I could ask my mom for, $1 million and then the initial request could be 50, you know what I mean? It's just the initial request is whatever you guys want. Anyway, I'm not seeing it as a reduction. I'm seeing it as a more realistic number. My other question then is what was the budget for 2025? What was your budget for 2025?
I believe 68 million.
68 million. So we're going from 68 million up to 95 million.
Last year in the budget request, we did not. present the- So if you added
So the numbers
benefits
didn't
from
include
last year,
benefits.
we went back closer to approximately 90 million, give or take, with the benefits last year. So this year we added them in only because we prepared our budget request.
Okay, and what other benefits did you say? How much?
Last year, I believe it would have brought us total up around 90 million. Jennifer.
No, I mean, just the benefits that you pulled out last year that you're adding in this year. How much were those benefits?
Go back slide. That's benefits 21 million.
21 million, okay. 582, okay, so we're still 60, 60. So we're still asking for, did you do the math? I don't have time to do the math right now while I'm talking, but so what percentage are you guys asking more this year, 2026 than you did 2025? What's for the total, what's the percentage? Okay, you know what, I'll figure it out.
About
30% increase from last year. And I'm trying to understand, I'm adding the 95 million that you're asking for this year versus the 68 million you got last year, 68 million plus 21 million in benefits. So those two numbers added and what the percentage is. Jeff, do you know that?
Let me clarify. I think what the sheriff presented, he received the open gov report, or not the email, right?
Right.
With a number of different accounting units. That includes the whole entire sheriff department. What we try to focus on is the general fund. That's where the bulk of the operations are. So let's take a look at that. Let me give you that number. And this does not include the benefits. So remember, in the general fund, we budget for IMRA, Social Security, Medicare, all those in a separate accounting unit. They're not budgeted within the general fund departments, including the sheriff. So without benefits in the general fund, the total request that we received was $82.4 million. The budget last year was 67.9 million.
Okay, so my question still is, what percentage of a difference is that?
So I'd have to add up. I mean, I think the overall increase
22%
or
increase.
about $17 million.
Okay, a 20% increase or 22. What did you say, Jason? Okay, so then, I'm glad, thank you for walking me along that path. So then my question is why are we asking for a 22% increase for over last year? That's my main question. Thank
Lion's share of that is the collective bargaining agreement. Lion's share of that is the collective bargaining agreement. That's where our overall percentage increase is in. We're at a 13.6% increase in salaries in the collective bargaining.
Thank you. I want to thank you for your presentation. I want to thank Mr. Berlin and Mr. York who are here as well. I'm sorry. I'm going to address the elephant in the room now. I am very disappointed that the elected sheriff is not here today. And I think it needs to be stated. And I think it also needs to be stated that the reason you come before us is not for us to grill you or for any kind of disrespect, but for us to ask the questions that our constituents want to hear about, because this, in the end, is all our constituents' taxpayer money. And it's really important for us to be asking you these questions, for you to answer, so that everyone has transparency and understands how our budgeting works and the value that they receive for the work that you do and the money that we spend. So I really do appreciate your being here today. And I am very disappointed the sheriff is not here. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you so much for being here, both of you. I really appreciate it. And I think you quite honestly have another job as auctioneer because you talk so quickly. So I'm just gonna give you that kudos there. I'm hoping that you can send us this with all of the information that we went through so quickly, because it was very quick, and I had a hard time even reading it and laughing and saying, I can't read that. So you gave us all these things in OpenGov, like crime laboratory. I'm just going through, I was looking at all the budgets last night. And on those, you've got like, you had, a budget, but you didn't use anything this year. And now you're asking for like $20,000 next year. So I'm trying to figure out, there's a whole line under crime laboratory where we've got 0 used or projected to be used. And there's like tons and tons of money. And this is in a lot of the budgets that you submitted. And you're saying it was an aggregate number, I believe is what you were saying. Is that why those are like those? Because you just put in any number? I just try to understand. Because when I said, I'm like, this doesn't make any sense.
So some things for the crime lab, and Claire is here, the crime lab, she's here. Some things for the crime lab are every other year expenses. So sometimes she needs more. Sometimes she doesn't need to. So do you know which line in particular you were referring to?
Well, I think it starts at the investment income, and then it goes down all the way down. Everything's the 0 for projected.
So are you on revenues or are you on expenses?
Well, I'm sorry. I'll start at the expenses. Commodities. Let's start with commodities going down, and everything's projected for 0 in expenses. And then you're saying you need a request of all the, you have like 20,000, 99,000, 91,000, 66,000, and everything was 0. So I'm just not understanding the numbers.
I'm looking at the crime lab, my aggregate overall budget for the crime lab, and trying to see which ones are in any of those rates, and I'm not seeing that in any of the commodity lines. So in operating supplies is probably the biggest. It's probably the biggest line that has an increase in the crime lab. What we had to budget for, without getting political, what we had to budget for the operating supplies in the crime lab is a good portion of the DNA testing supplies for the crime lab are funded by a federal grant. With the federal politics versus the state of Illinois politics, is unknown if they're funded. So we have to budget so that they're operate.
Okay, so you're doing this, you're kind of preparing for in case you don't get the federal funding that you might.
That funding doesn't, that funding were to come through, and we were not to need it for crime lab, then we should return it to the general fund. But I think State Attorney Berlin would agree, we cannot stop processing DNA.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely, no, I'm not asking you to do that. Absolutely not.
That's why.
Is that part of this 12 point? I mean, remember to start's question, it was 22%, and then there was a 13.6% in collective bargaining, you said, and so now that leaves us with like a 12.9% increase.
The only area that we had budgeted.
Just a bunch of these that were like that. Law enforcement justice was the same thing, I believe. The training and travel expenses, there was always was 0 budget last year. Now we've got 30,000, we've got 5,000, we've got 40,000. And now I'm in the federal law enforcement justice. It's 1300-4590.
So those accounts are all the accounts that we get seizure money. Those are not general fund. So those are not accounts.
So I shouldn't pay. I should just go look at the general fund one.
Correct.
Okay,
those
because
funds are all coming in from other places.
that's why I'm trying to understand this, because all of these were given to us, and I've looked through all of
And
them,
the-
I'm like, does that make sense to me? So.
Brief historical for everybody on those 1,300 accounts. Up until a couple of years ago, those accounts were just managed in-house. Insurance companies. And brought them over here, so it's gonna take years to aggregate data. Into the average budget for to try to project what we're gonna spend out of those accounts.
Might come back to me, but go ahead, go to the next person.
One,
Thank you, Jeff.
the accounting unit for the general fund is 4,400, 4415. So if you click on that tab in your email, that'll pull up the whole general fund for the sheriff.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you again for being here to answer all of our questions. So I am a little disappointed by this presentation because it doesn't give us the full picture. And so thankfully we do have the open gov that we've been looking at, obviously, and I have like multiple tabs open right now, taking a look. And as Member Star had mentioned before, we were really looking at the general fund and the amount, the difference, right? So I understand that for your original fiscal year, you were looking at 99 million and you did cut out, just over 3 million to make it 95 million, the new total. But going back to what it was in 2024 and 2025, this is pretty much a $15 to $17 million increase in your budget for this fiscal year 2026. That is significant. And I am taking a look at the general fund, and I did have a couple questions with regard to your capital outlay. So specifically, it talks about your software and your equipment, machinery, and then automotive equipment, and specifically lease right of use asset. So those numbers, they're really big jumps from what it was before. So back in 2022, they were at 0. And then now they're at 5,485,000. Another one is at 750,000. Another one is at 1.5 million. So these are just really big increases, and I'm just wondering why.
So if I can start with the 5 million. Okay. That one, that was a Scrivener's error, and I worked with Jennifer, and I thought that was gonna be fixed for your presentation. When I put in that lease right of use, that is the aggregate total of all of our Axon had contracts for the 5-year period of all of them. So you can take $4 million off of that number. But that number should have been corrected to a little $1.4 million. And that covers all of our body cameras, covers our fleet cameras, covers our interview rooms. So that lease right of use is 5.4 million. It's actually about 1.4 million.
Okay. Should do more Scrivener errors.
I thought we had that corrected.
Okay. And then I do want to go back to actually what Member Garcia was talking about, because I did again go through each of the open gov, and maybe you're right, we are focusing on the general fund, but I just noticed that there are some discrepancies in the sense, like for instance, in the sheriff commissary fund, you're seeking contingencies at $300,000 when the years past have been 0, 0, 0. So why are there contingencies for $300,000 in the sheriff commissary fund?
While Dan's looking for that, I just want to mention, when we're talking about the 22% increase on our personnel line. We are trying to fund our entire office this time. There are no one in contingencies this year. I'm only 30 people down right now. I have 39 in the pipeline of various places to be hired by the sheriff's office. So by December 1st, I'm trying to be fully staffed.
Specifically, other contractual services,
No, I
53828.
I would have to ask, I'll get the answer back to you. In FY25, we budgeted 381,000, projected to spend 0.
Right.
Again, the commissary line is another one of those revenue lines. We just simply don't know. The commissary line is based on how many people, how many phone calls paid, how much money does the county give the phone calls get paid. Some sheriff's office get that commissary.
But the contingencies are specifically in the expenses portion, not in the revenue, right?
No, that line, that the sheriff's commissary fund is a special fund.
Right.
That we generally being unsure if I have heard since run out. So I can get you that answer.
Okay. I think I do have other questions, but I think I will ask them on the side. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. How many new deputies or employees have you hired since the start of this year?
Roughly about 15.
I was kind of going back to what member you was saying, looking at some of the discrepancies of the accounting line of the continuing education and membership. It just, when you go from all the other sub accounting lines to the general fund, it looks like it wasn't, they were zeroed out. There wasn't enough money being funded comparative to the actual general fund looking at it. So that answered my question, that to look at the general fund rather than look at those other accounts. Because I was curious, is that if you had hired 15 new people, if there was education and money put towards that, because it wasn't showing on the other accounts. But if you look at the general fund, it does kind of show up. So it was just confusing when I was looking at it last night. But from what you were saying, it kind of cleared it up. So thank you.
Back row, person in the dark blue jacket, nothing. You are a member of the committee, technically. All right, thank you for coming in. Move on to our public defender, Jeff York.
I always try to thank somebody every year. This year, and they're not even here, so you know I mean it. I want to thank the HR department. They've been incredibly helpful, informative, responsive, and most of all, pleasant. I've used them a ton in the last year for a lot of things. I really appreciate it. And I'll tell Chris later that I said that, but she's not even here yet. So I was given a template this year, which is a difficult thing for me. I was like, okay, I can follow the rules, right? So, you know, I'm gonna try to follow the rules in my way. So I'm still giving you all the information you need. It's gonna be more in my way, but I think you do have the spreadsheets and things like that. So before I was given the template, I had started building basically an episode, and I didn't want to waste it. So every episode starts with the couch, and this is where I had gone with it. So you're all on the couch. Okay, so back to the program I was given. The public defender represents people who are indigent. We are appointed by judges. We can't take cases because we want to. We cover adult criminal, juvenile delinquency, juvenile abuse and neglect. We also cover mental health petitions and a few other random things. This slide says that we're currently staffed by 42 attorneys. It's currently 41, and I think by the end of next week it'll be 40. But that's staff. I want to talk a little bit about some things in the past year. First, the Illinois legislature has passed the FAIR Act. It has passed both the House and Senate. It is not yet signed by the governor. It starts in January of 2027. And honestly, I've told people the impact on our office here and on you is going to be minimal anytime soon. The first couple of years minimum is going to be that statewide office, building an office, finding office space, hiring people for the statewide office. I don't anticipate, even when they want to give resources, I think we're going to be pretty low, if not at the very bottom of the list. So I don't think it's going to have a huge impact. I want to talk about turnover in 2024. Out of my 40 lawyers or so, 14 left my office last year. It's more than a third. Covering courtrooms was a real issue for us. So far, I have 6 this year, 2 in the last 2 weeks. Also, last summer, we onboarded or started a class for the first time of 6 new attorneys. But for most of 2024, we were in kind of survival mode. This these are the misdemeanor positions or misdemeanor level positions. It's what it's supposed to look like. Warm body in each place. That's what we were dealing with about a year ago. That's a lot of holes. We've done two things. We've both done anonymous surveys of our attorneys, and we've been doing exit interviews and asking things like, how can things be better or whatever. Almost all of them said, caseloads are too high and we don't have enough. So we're in a situation where we've had this unprecedented attrition. We've never had that kind of turnover before in my entire time here. I started in the 90s. A lack of available attorneys, especially doing in-person work, some unfunded mandates, increased demand and discovery. My leadership and myself were all full-time in courtrooms. I was in a misdemeanor courtroom for about 2 months last summer. We are slowly putting the pieces back in place to function effectively. We have people, like we have all the warm bodies. And I thought we had stemmed the tide of attrition until the last couple of weeks. But onto the budget stuff. This is kind of a big summary slide, and this might be enough for most of you. These are the three big categories: personnel, commodities, and contractual. Personnel is up significantly, but let's talk about commodities first because it's down about 20 grand out of the 66 grand. So that's the stuff. And then the same thing is true of contractual. It's down. Personnel's up significantly. So overall, I'm up because it pales in comparison to the other one. I'm going to walk through each of these categories. So that's kind of a closer. So regular salaries, personnel. That's really the bulk of our personnel line item. And when I have a green box, that means we didn't spend all, right? So 2023, we have a red box, we spent too much. And that was the same thing in 2024. Part of that is because a lot of our, a pretty sizable chunk of our personnel was put in contingency. And then this year, I'm definitely, and my request is really red. And it's really for 3 reasons. I'm trying to fill out the head count. I haven't been able to fill out the head count completely, just like Mr. Berlin and the state's attorney's office. We had trouble with that. We've made some head count adjustments, and I'll get into that in a minute. And then we had some salary adjustments, just like the state's attorney, to really keep pace with them. So I'm not asking for new head count, okay? Probably. I mean, barring some kind of unfortunate law that passes that I can't anticipate. But I'm not asking for new head count, but I want to reorganize what I have. I had to make a chart of what finance, HR, what I currently had, and what I wanted, and they're all different. Now, the good news is we all have the same number at the bottom, the total head count. But where the attorney positions are, I think wasn't right. And sometimes they're just off by 1 or 2. Sometimes it's more significant. But from finance's perspective, especially, I want more lawyers at the higher level with the more serious crimes than I had. I think what happened is with the Safety Act, I kind of said I'm going to add a bunch of lawyers, and we just had them as new lawyers. But the reality is we need help, not just at the lower end of the criminal spectrum, but the more complex cases too. So I filled out paperwork to kind of right-size that as part of the budget process to just get the head count in the right spaces. I'm not asking to add my mental health clinicians. They're wonderful, and we need more. But I don't think there's enough of a need to ask for help this year, especially. However, I did apply for a grant. We partnered with the health department, and we don't know if we're going to get it. We'll know in a few weeks. But essentially, it's sending a mental health professional to pretrial court as soon as they're arrested. We're appointed to every single one of those cases to do kind of an evaluation and hopefully some referrals at that initial stage. So we'll see. but health department was great, great partner. I've never written a grant before. I have a lot of respect for people who do that. It's really and they were very helpful. Okay, so other things you're probably going to ask me about. Furniture. I have never, I'm just bad at spending money on furniture. So it's like $20,000 less than last year. So that's a good thing. Operating supplies. So I've never spent all the money on operating supplies, and I'm asking for 40,000, and I'm sure Mr. Krajewski is asking, even though he's not here, you've never spent close to 40,000. Why would we give that to you? And the reason is because I anticipate about a $10,000 increase in online legal research costs. So the state's attorney has the same, their legal research cost is getting very expensive. You can't keep the cheaper stuff if you wanted to, because it just gets in. And so our contract is up, I think, at the end of March. So starting in April, we're going to pay more than double. So that's really, I'm asking for 30 plus 10 to pay for the difference. For interpreters, we have never spent a ton of money. I guess in 2024 we did. I had a huge number. Most of that was state money, because I set aside money to send out transcriptions and interpreting to an outside agency. And we had two things happen. We had less need than we have in the past, and the prices were more reasonable than we thought they would be. That was a new program. So I'm asking for significantly less instead of 21,000 per person. Professional services, these are really expert witnesses and transcripts is the bulk of it. And this is the hardest line item to predict. In 2022, I was way over. There have been times I've been under. This year, I'm significantly under, but don't get too excited because 50,000 of that is something that used to be in this, got moved to an IT subscription line item. I think it was an auditor thing. So we actually transferred that. So we're asking for 50,000, but I shouldn't win any awards for that because really 50,000 got transferred. Instruction and schooling. This year I really spent money, and I'm asking for more. And really I want to emphasize training with the staff I have. I think in those surveys, I think my staff that has gone to training outside of our office has really appreciated it. The good news for you is 12 out of the $15,000 I'm asking is coming from the state. So, and we'll get into that. I know we've talked about the public defender fund before, but so I'm asking for more because I'm going to use it all this year and anticipate next year the same. And the same thing is true of travel. And really, I don't normally spend a lot of money on travel. This year I did because we sent people all over. And I want to do the same. And the same thing, 3,000 is really coming from you. 15,000 will be coming from the state. Mileage. I don't know why. I've budgeted for mileage for my staff. Sometimes my staff has to go, say, to Hinsdale Hospital for a mental health petition. And my staff is just really bad about asking for reimbursement, and I'm not going to chase them for it. So they're entitled to it. So I've been budgeting it, but I've cut it. We never spent it. Okay, I'm almost there. Printing. I don't normally spend a lot on printing, and we cut it back. This is a difficult line item to predict because printing got shifted from kind of a central source where we didn't pay for it directly to us. And some of the printing places that we've used in the past have gone out of business. So I cut it way back. I don't think we spent a lot of money this year, although we still didn't spend all of it. So I cut it way back. Software and IT arrangements. This is a line item. So there's a lot of red here, and this number keeps going. And I'm asking for more. This is 50,000 of this is from that other line item that got transferred from operating expenses to this. And it's the service we use to process videos. So there's a slight increase for services. We also, by adding staff, we have to pay more for licensing. So we have licenses. We have added some features to our case management system. I'll give you an example. We now can be appointed to an adoption case if someone is seeking to have someone's parental rights terminated. Our case management system wasn't, but we need to incorporate it, so we had to make modifications. And really the bulk of it is storage of digital. It's a huge problem. We are trying to solve it, although I'm not an IT guru, so it's a difficult problem. I applaud the state, and I look forward to whatever solution that we can come up with in terms of the really big stuff. The phone evidence is unbelievably, like, we can't transfer it. It doesn't fit on a computer. That kind of thing. So that's up. I mentioned state money a few times, and I'm doing a few things with it. Instruction, schooling, travel, and then some of the interpreters. When I wrote this presentation, I didn't know what we were going to be getting, and I'm glad to tell you, last year we got 113,000 from the state, the Public Defender Fund. This year, it's anticipated we're getting 117,000, which is more than I budgeted. I budgeted 106 because I was throwing a dart. So I'm putting a chunk of it towards personnel, towards the board when I asked to mirror the state's attorney's office change in their increasing starting salary, and then, you know, all the attorneys in the office. I said I would put some of this money toward that. So a good chunk of it is going to. That's
Thank you so much for the presentation, Jeff. Really appreciate it. I don't have a question. I just wanted to thank you, number one. And number two, just to give you, it's brand new technology that the only suburban police department that I know of is Joliet. They launched this brand new system where it's real-time translation. It's a body cam that costs about $500 plus the software for it. And the Joliet Police Department, you know, it can translate 50 languages with one unit. So anyway, you're talking about $7,000 for a translator per year. Of course, that cost is probably going to go up year to year. Where I'm just suggesting that maybe we want to invest in technology and that speaks 50 languages. And just a thought. Thank you.
I will. So in court, we have to use court certified interpreters. And often if someone needs an interpreter, the court pays for it while they're in court. But if we need to prepare for them, we need to pay for them. So a big portion of the interpreting isn't just, it's not casually talking. It's talking with the client about preparing for a trial or, you know, getting them evaluated or things like that. But I will certainly look into that. I mean, I want to, it maybe have a benefit in some circumstances.
Jersey?
Thank you, Chair, and thanks, Jeff. Just some questions about your staffing of lawyers. You said you have 40, and you lost 14. That's 35%. That's a pretty big chunk. Is that, first of all, like I know we tried like last year, the year before, to get your salaries up and things like that to help retain. But that seems like a high number. Is that?
It is a high number.
I mean, that's not typical every single year.
No, I think I probably could have, you know, I've been public defender like 15 years. I bet you could combine 12 of them and come up with 14.
Okay.
So it was definitely an outlier year. A lot of reasons. Several people have moved out of the area. I can't help that. The person who just left a week and a half ago, you know, his wife was transferred upstate. I mean, so a lot of it is out of my control. Some of it is due to money, but I don't think that is by far and away the reason. It's been the combination, of a lot of fun things.
And that helps us to understand it a little bit better.
Yeah.
Just
We've had a better time attracting good candidates. I think it's important we stay competitive, and I think that's why Bob and I both approached you a few months ago. But when you are relying on bar taking people, they might not all pass. And that was one of the things that happened to us last year. Is a decent chunk of the people that we had brought in trained didn't pass the bar initial time, so that sets back.
And this is mostly just for my own curiosity. Out of your current staff, how many have been with your office for say more than 5 years, more than 10 years? You have quite a few long-term employees, or
I would guess of the, I think I'm at maybe 55. If I had to guess, over half would be over 10 years.
oh, that's great.
I mean, I don't, I used to have the number of like what our average was. And certainly it's probably changed in the last 3 or 4 years, but I have several people at the 15, 20 year mark as well.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
For you,
Thank you, Chair. Thank you so much for your presentation. I really appreciated it, especially because I had 3 questions for you and you answered them already in your presentation. It was travel expenses, it was the instruction and schooling, and it was the subscription IT arrangements. So going back to the subscription IT arrangements, it was, 100,000 or so, and then it tripled to $330,000. And I'm just wondering if there are in-house, our IT department who could potentially help with the fact that the storage costs continue to go up, and they will continue to go up, right?
It is not at all something that our county IT could manage with the volume of data we're talking. I mean, we're talking multiple servers.
Right.
So initially we were paying 0 for storage when we first launched eDefender, which is in 2019. We're paying, I think, $7,500 a month. And that number never goes down. Now our building, it's taken longer than I had hoped. When we physically destroy a file, I feel like, well, I can destroy the digital evidence too. And we have the ability now to do that. Not on a case-by-case basis. We do 10,000 cases. I would have 3 full-time staff to leave stuff. That's not feasible. But we can say everything that was set to be destroyed in 2022, click, 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 delete, right? So we built a way to start hopefully destroying files we don't need. The state's attorney doesn't have that problem. They have to hang on to it. I don't need to. If for some reason we're reappointed, we can get the discovery back. But we won't necessarily destroy our electronic file, but the discovery itself, which is the bulk of the storage, is a problem.
Thank you.
But we've worked with IT many times over trying to come up with a way, but storing it here isn't realistic. It's just the volume is too much.
and any other questions? Thank you for coming in, Mr. York. All right, moving on, is there any old business? New business? Right, without objection, we are adjourned.